In the 4th century before the Common Era, one empire ruled the known world, the Persian Achaemenid Empire, the largest the earth had ever seen, stretched from the Aegean Sea to the Indus River, from the frozen steppes of Central Asia to the burning sands of Egypt. At its heart stood Persepolis, a city of unimaginable grandeur. Tribute flowed in from 100 nations. 30 million souls bent the knee to one throne, one flag, one man. That man was Darius III, great king, king of kings, lord of all nations. He had inherited the most powerful empire in human history. He had every reason to believe it was invincible. To the west, the Greeks had twice humiliated Persia: Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis. These defeats had not broken the empire, but they had planted a seed of doubt, and from that doubt, a conqueror would be born. His name was Alexander, son of Philip of Macedon, student of Aristotle, king at 20 years old. And from the very first day of his reign, he had one obsession: the destruction of the Persian Empire. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with barely 40,000 men. What followed was a campaign of stunning speed and violence. He crushed Persian forces at the Granicus River. He liberated Ionia. He swept through Anatolia like a storm. At Issus, in 333 BCE, the two kings met for the first time on the battlefield. Darius commanded an enormous force. Alexander commanded momentum. The result was catastrophic for Persia. Darius fled, abandoning his mother, his wife, and his daughters to Alexander's mercy. Alexander treated the royal captives with extraordinary honor. He told Darius's mother, who had bowed to Hephaestion by mistake, that her error was no error at all. Hephaestion, he said, was also Alexander. It was a gesture that revealed everything about his character. Darius sent envoys offering peace. He offered Alexander all of Asia Minor, 10,000 talents of gold, and the hand of his own daughter in marriage. Alexander refused every offer. He would have all of Persia, or nothing. Rather than chase Darius immediately, Alexander spent 2 years securing the Mediterranean coast. He besieged Tyre for 7 months. He was crowned Pharaoh of Egypt. He visited the oracle of Amun at Siwa, and emerged with the conviction that he was the son of a god. What the oracle said to him, Alexander never revealed. But from that moment forward, he carried himself differently. Not merely as a king, but as something chosen, something inevitable. In the spring of 331 BCE, Alexander turned his army east. He was marching toward the center of the Persian world, into Mesopotamia, into the heartland of Darius's power. The final confrontation was coming. Both men knew it. Darius was not a fool. He understood what had gone wrong at Issus. The battlefield had been too narrow. His superior numbers had been wasted. He would not make that mistake again. This time, he would choose the ground himself. He selected a plain near the village of Gaugamela, which in the local tongue meant camel's house. It was ideal for his purposes: flat, open, endless. On this ground, his cavalry could maneuver freely, his chariots could charge without obstruction, and his numbers could finally tell. He ordered the ground leveled. Persian engineers spent weeks clearing rocks, filling holes, and preparing a flawless surface. Darius was building a trap designed specifically for Alexander. His army was unlike anything assembled before. Historians debate the exact numbers, but ancient sources speak of 200,000 infantry, 40,000 cavalry, 200 scythed war chariots. Chariots fitted with spinning blades on their wheels, designed to shred through infantry formations, and 15 war elephants from India. The scythed chariots were Darius's secret weapon. At full gallop, those spinning blades could cut men in half. Against disciplined infantry that didn't know how to respond, they would be devastating. Darius intended to use them on Alexander's flanks to shatter the Macedonian formation before it could close. His battle plan was straightforward. His line would stretch far beyond Alexander's flanks on both sides. The chariots and cavalry would sweep around the edges, envelop the Macedonians, and destroy them in a crushing double envelopment. It was a plan designed to make numbers irresistible. His commanders were among the finest in the empire. Bessus would lead the feared Bactrian cavalry on the left flank, horsemen from the northeastern frontier, warriors who had never known defeat. Mazaeus would command the right. Between them, Darius would hold the center with his royal guard and the Greek mercenaries. The night before battle, the Persian camp blazed with light. Darius, fearing a night attack, kept his entire army standing under arms through the darkness. 300,000 men, if we believe the ancient accounts, standing awake through a sleepless night. It was the first of many mistakes. Alexander could see the Persian fires from miles away. His second-in-command, Parmenion, veteran general, voice of experience, keeper of caution, urged an immediate night attack. Catch them off guard. Use the darkness. Alexander refused. "I will not steal a victory," he reportedly said. The line may be legendary, but the decision was real and strategically sound. A night battle on unfamiliar ground against a vastly larger force risked chaos. Alexander needed to see his enemy. He needed to execute a plan. He personally led a reconnaissance of the Persian position. He studied the leveled ground. He noted where the chariots were massed. He counted the cavalry units. He measured the length of the Persian line and compared it to his own, and saw immediately that it overlapped his formation on both sides. Back at camp, he gathered his commanders: Parmenion, Craterus, Hephaestion, Clitus, Perdiccas, the finest officers of the finest army on earth. Alexander laid out his plan. His plan was genius, or madness. He would advance his entire army at an oblique angle, drifting rightward as they moved forward. This would accomplish two things. It would pull the Persian line to the right, stretching it thin, and it would eventually take Alexander off the leveled ground, onto rougher terrain where the chariots were less effective. His phalanx, the legendary Macedonian formation, would anchor the center, 16 men deep, each man armed with the sarissa, a pike 21 feet long. Nothing in the ancient world could break a phalanx from the front. The phalanx would hold. That was all it needed to do. On the right flank, Alexander would ride with the companion cavalry, his personal force, the finest heavy cavalry in the world. They were not there to hold. They were there to strike, to find the one moment when the Persian line thinned, and to drive through it like a spear. Between the cavalry and the phalanx stood the hypaspists, elite infantry who could move as fast as cavalry and fight as hard as phalangites. They were Alexander's flexible hinge. Whatever happened, the hypaspists would respond. And then there was Alexander's masterstroke, a second battle line positioned behind the first, facing outward. If the Persians swept around his flanks, and they would try, these reserve troops would pivot and face them. The Macedonian army was designed to fight surrounded, and to win. The night before the battle, Alexander slept, deeply, soundly, through the dark hours. Parmenion had to come and wake him personally when dawn was approaching. His officers were astonished. Alexander simply smiled. He had already won the battle in his mind. It was the morning of October the 1st, 331, before the Common Era. The Persian army had been standing under arms all night. Alexander's army had slept, eaten, and prayed. Now, in the first light of dawn, both sides prepared to decide the fate of the world. Alexander rode along his lines one final time. He spoke to his officers by name. He reminded the infantry captains of what each unit needed to do. He made himself seen. He made himself known. Then he took his position on the right flank, at the head of the companion cavalry. Across the plain, Darius watched from his royal chariot. He had the high ground, metaphorically speaking. He had the numbers. He had the chariots, the cavalry, the resources. But he watched Alexander's army advancing and felt something his courtiers would not have dared name aloud. As Alexander advanced, he began his drift to the right. Deliberately, methodically, the entire Macedonian line walked at an angle, not toward the center of the Persian army, but toward the Persian left. The effect was immediate. Bessus's Bactrian cavalry began to slide sideways to keep pace. Darius saw the danger. If Alexander drifted far enough right, he would slip off the carefully leveled ground entirely, and the scythed chariots would be useless on rough terrain. Darius ordered his left flank to extend, to pursue, to contain Alexander before he escaped the killing zone. And here was Alexander's trap springing. As the Persian left extended to pursue him, their line stretched, thinned, and gaps began to open. Not large gaps, not yet, but Alexander was watching for them with the intensity of a hawk. Before the gap could develop further, Darius launched his scythed chariots. 200 vehicles, blades spinning, horses screaming, crashing toward the Macedonian center at full gallop. It was designed to be unstoppable, a wall of iron and death. What happened next was either incredible discipline or incredible training, probably both. Alexander had prepared for this. The phalangites simply opened lanes in their formation. The chariots roared through the gaps and found themselves surrounded by javelin throwers and hypaspist cavalry waiting behind the line. Most were destroyed. The great chariot assault accomplished almost nothing. On the Macedonian left, the situation was far more dangerous. Macedonia launched the Persian right flank cavalry against Parmenian's position with devastating force. The Macedonian left began to bend, then crack. Parmenian sent urgent messages to Alexander. The message was stark. The left was failing. Parmenian needed help immediately. For any other commander, this would have meant abandoning the plan, turning, reinforcing, reacting. For Alexander, it meant something else entirely. Alexander did not turn left. He had already seen what he was looking for. As Bessus's cavalry stretched leftward to pursue Alexander's drift, a gap had opened between the Persian cavalry and Darius's main center. It was not wide, it was not obvious, but to Alexander, riding along the line, watching every Persian movement, it was a door standing open. He raised his spear. The companion cavalry heard the signal they had trained their whole lives to execute. In an instant, 3,000 of the finest horsemen in the ancient world transformed from a walking column into a thundering wedge, aimed directly at the gap in the Persian line. The wedge formation, the cuneus, was Alexander's signature, a triangle of cavalry with the commander at the apex, crashing through gaps like a battering ram. And Alexander was not merely directing this charge from behind. He was at the very tip of the wedge, leading from the front. At the same moment, the Macedonian phalanx surged forward into the Persian center. The double attack, cavalry on the flank, phalanx at the center, created chaos in the Persian lines. Units that had held were now receiving pressure from multiple directions. The fighting in the gap was ferocious. The Persian royal infantry, the best troops in the empire, threw themselves against Alexander's charge. They died by the hundreds, but they could not stop the wedge. Nothing in the Persian order of battle had been designed to stop this. Darius watched the charge from his chariot. He saw his cavalry pierced. He saw his center fracturing. He saw Alexander, personally, visibly, terrifyingly, driving straight toward the royal standard, toward him. What happened next has been debated for 2,000 years. Did Darius flee from cowardice, or did he make a rational decision that a king who survives can raise another army, while a king who dies ends all resistance? History has judged him harshly, but in that moment, it was a human choice under impossible pressure. Darius fled. He turned his chariot, abandoned his royal standard, and rode east as fast as his horses could carry him. The King of Kings, Lord of all nations, was running from a Macedonian cavalry officer with a spear. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. When word spread that the great king had fled, the Persian center collapsed, not slowly, but instantly, utterly, irreversibly. Men who had been fighting now dropped their weapons and ran. The line did not bend. It simply ceased to exist. The pursuit began. Alexander's cavalry drove into the fleeing Persians with merciless efficiency. What had been an army became a panicked mob. What had been a battle plan became a catastrophe. The plain of Gaugamela was transforming from a killing trap into a killing field. Alexander personally chased Darius. He came close. The sources say he could see the royal chariot through the dust. But then a rider reached him with a message that forced the most agonizing decision of the battle. Parmenions' left flank had broken. Persian cavalry under Macedonia had punched through and were attacking the supply lines and the baggage train. The wounded were in danger. The camp was in danger. If Alexander continued chasing Darius, he might win the pursuit and lose the battle. Alexander turned back. He abandoned the pursuit of Darius. He would never catch him. Not on this day. He rode at full gallop back toward the crisis on his left, crashing into Macedonia's cavalry from an unexpected direction. The impact was devastating. Macedonia's cavalry had believed the Macedonian right was committed elsewhere. When Alexander appeared behind them, crashing into their flank, the surprise was total. The Persian right, which had nearly broken the Macedonian army, collapsed in minutes. By late afternoon, the Battle of Gaugamela was over. The Persian army, hundreds of thousands of men, had ceased to exist as a fighting force. Darius was somewhere to the east, riding hard. His empire was not yet dead, but it was dying. The ancient sources offer wildly varying casualty figures. Alexander reportedly lost 300 men. Modern historians believe the number was probably higher, perhaps 3,000. The Persian losses may have reached 40 or 50,000. The precision of the numbers matters less than their meaning. Gaugamela was not merely a military victory. It was proof that superior tactics, superior training, and superior leadership could defeat superior numbers. It was proof that an army that fights as a thinking organism, adapting, exploiting, reacting, can beat an army that fights as a machine. Alexander did not pause to celebrate. Within days, he was marching south. The cities of the Persian heartland lay open before him. The governors, who might have resisted, saw which way history was blowing. Babylon surrendered without a battle. Macedonia, the Persian commander who had fought Alexander so fiercely at Gaugamela, opened the gates himself. Babylon, city of Nebuchadnezzar, city of the hanging gardens, center of the world, fell without a sword being drawn. Alexander entered Babylon in triumph. He restored the temples that Xerxes had desecrated. He honored the Babylonian gods. He paid the priesthood. He understood something that Darius had never fully grasped, that an empire is kept not merely by force, but by the consent, however reluctant, of the governed. At Susa, they found the treasury, 50,000 talents of gold and silver, the accumulated wealth of the Persian Empire, built over 2 centuries of tribute from 100 nations. Alexander had not merely conquered an empire, he had become the richest man who had ever lived. And then came Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, the symbol of Persian greatness. The city whose tribute friezes showed every nation of the empire, bringing gifts to the great king. Alexander took it, and then, in an act whose meaning historians still debate, he burned it. Was it revenge for Xerxes' burning of Athens in 480 BCE? Was it symbolic, a declaration that the Persian Empire was finished? Was it a drunken accident, as some ancient sources claim? We don't know. What we know is that as Persepolis burned, the Achaemenid Empire effectively ended. The rest was pursuit. Darius fled east from Gaugamela to Ecbatana, then further east into Media. He raised what forces he could. He sent messages. He tried to organize a new army, but no one came. The governors saw the writing on the wall. The machinery of empire, deprived of its center of gravity, was stopping. Around him, even his own officers were beginning to calculate. Bessus, commander of the Bactrian cavalry, who had fought bravely at Gaugamela, began to see Darius not as his king, but as a liability, a surrenderable asset, a body to be traded. In the summer of 330 BCE, Bessus arrested Darius. He placed him in chains in a covered wagon. When Alexander's cavalry, riding at killing pace through the eastern desert, finally caught the royal procession, Bessus had fled. In the wagon, they found Darius III, great king, king of kings, dead. Alexander covered him with his own cloak. He wept. He declared that Darius would be buried with full royal honors in the royal tombs at Persepolis. He called Bessus a traitor and a regicide, and hunted him across Central Asia until he caught him, tried him, and executed him. Alexander had killed the empire. He had not wanted to kill the king. The Achaemenid Persian Empire, one of the greatest political structures in human history, 550 years in the making, was over. What replaced it was something genuinely new, a Greco-Macedonian world empire that would reshape civilization for the next 3 centuries. The Battle of Gaugamela did not merely destroy one empire and replace it with another. It changed the genetic code of civilization. In the decades after Alexander's victory, Greek became the international language of the ancient world, the language of the New Testament, of Euclid's geometry, of the libraries of Alexandria. The cultural fusion that Alexander set in motion, Greek rationalism meeting Persian sophistication, meeting Babylonian astronomy, meeting Egyptian theology, produced an intellectual explosion. The Hellenistic period that followed Gaugamela gave us advances in mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and philosophy that would not be matched for 1,000 years. In Bactria, modern Afghanistan, Greek settlers built cities. Their descendants fused Greek art with Buddhist spirituality, creating a new visual language, the Gandharan style, in which the Buddha was depicted with the face of Apollo. The meeting of civilizations that Alexander forced at spear point eventually created something genuinely beautiful. For Alexander personally, Gaugamela was the beginning of something he had not expected, the loneliness of unlimited success. He had set out to destroy Persia. He had done it, and then he kept going. He could not stop. He pushed east into Afghanistan, into Pakistan, to the banks of the Indus River, 8,000 miles from home. His soldiers finally stopped him. On the banks of the Beas River in what is now Pakistan, they sat down. They had been marching and fighting for 8 years. They had won every battle. They had gone further than any Greeks had ever imagined. And they were done. They wanted to go home. Alexander wept, the only battle he ever lost. Alexander returned west. He planned new campaigns. Arabia, the Western Mediterranean, perhaps North Africa. He reorganized his empire. He married Persian noblewomen. He tried to fuse his Macedonian court with Persian customs, and nearly lost his most loyal officers over it. He was 32 years old, and he had more energy, more ambition, more vision than 10 ordinary kings. In June of 323 BCE, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. He was 32 years old. The cause is debated to this day. Typhoid fever, excessive drinking, poisoning, or grief following the death of his closest friend Hephaestion. He had reigned for 13 years. He had never lost a battle. When his generals asked who should inherit the empire, he reportedly whispered, "To the strongest." Those 2 words killed hundreds of thousands of people in the wars that followed. His generals, the Diadochi, the successors, tore the empire apart. The wars of the successors lasted 40 years and devastated every territory Alexander had conquered. By the time they ended, the empire was divided into 3 major kingdoms: Ptolemaic Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in Asia, and Macedon. None of them was what Alexander had envisioned. For centuries after his death, Alexander was the standard against which every general and every ruler measured themselves. Julius Caesar wept before a statue of Alexander in Alexandria, ashamed that at the same age he had achieved so little. Augustus Caesar kept a gemstone portrait of Alexander as his personal seal. Napoleon studied his campaigns obsessively. And what of Darius? History has not been kind to him. Twice he fled from Alexander. Twice he abandoned his position, his family, his men. But this verdict may be too simple. Darius inherited an empire not designed for the kind of warfare Alexander brought. He fought twice with courage. He lost twice to genius. There is no shame in losing to genius, only in never having fought at all. Today, the plain of Gaugamela is farmland in northern Iraq, near the city of Erbil in the Kurdistan region. There is a small commemorative marker, nothing else. The leveled ground that Darius prepared so carefully has long since returned to dust. But the world that was made on that ground on October the 1st, 331 before the Common Era, that world has never entirely ended. Every time a doctor uses Greek medical terminology, every time a philosopher invokes Aristotelian logic, every time an architect designs a building with columns, every time the word democracy is spoken in any language, there is an invisible line of causation that leads back through Roman civilization, through the Hellenistic world, through Alexander's conquests, to a dusty plain in Mesopotamia where a 25-year-old king found a gap in the line and charged through it. Gaugamela was not the largest battle ever fought. It was not the bloodiest. It may not even have been Alexander's most difficult, but it was the most consequential. It was the battle where one world ended and another began, where the Persian Empire of Cyrus and Darius gave way to the Greek civilization that would eventually become our own. He was 25 years old. He had already changed the world more completely than any person who had ever lived, and he was just getting started. The Persian Achaemenid Empire had lasted 220 years. The Hellenistic civilization that replaced it would endure for 3 centuries, until Rome absorbed it, and carry its ideas forward for another 2,000 years and counting. This has been the story of the Battle of Gaugamela, the day Alexander the Great destroyed the Persian Empire and remade the ancient world.